In order to create our pop-out room, the very first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your paper is sticking up and down. And then I'm going to lift up the bottom and I'm going to fold it up to the top and make sure they are evenly matched like this. And I'm going to hold it tight and then I'm just going to flatten it out. We want to make sure that they're pretty even. There we go. And now that I've flattened it out, the folded side is towards me. The part that opens is towards the top. Now today I'm just going to show you how to make a table and chair. And then once you're comfortable, you can sort of create your own interior design. So the very first thing I'm going to do is draw two straight lines that create sort of a square shape when you look at them together. They should be the same length, and they should both be going vertically, so up and down. We do not want them diagonal in any way, otherwise it doesn't really work. So right over here, I'm just going to, as straight as I can, draw a line that goes up, maybe about that high. It doesn't need to be a specific height. And then I'm going to draw sort of with my eyes a little imaginary square. So I think the other side of this would come to about here. And I would make it the same height and make sure that it's going straight down as well. So I'm just doing my best there. I'm sort of eyeballing it. Once I have these two lines that are about the same height and both going straight up and down, I'm going to use my scissors to cut on those lines, and I'm going to stop at the very top of both of those lines. And that is my second step. Once I have those two cuts, the very next thing I want to do is make sure that it did create a square. So I'm going to fold this up. If yours is a little bit crooked like this, that's not going to work. So you have to make sure that you cut it a little bit more if yours is a little bit crooked, and make sure it creates a nice even square. And then once it does, you're going to want to fold it down. That's going to help us with the next step. Once we have that folded, we can put it back down where it was. And then I'm going to open up my paper like this. And I'm going to take my finger and stick it behind the part that I just cut, these two pieces. And right on that fold that I have, I'm going to pull this towards me and then fold it the opposite direction and squish my paper down. So now it looks like I'm missing a little piece here, but I am not missing a piece. It's actually inside right there. Again, we want this to be a square, otherwise it won't look nice. So make sure yours is a square at that step. Once we have that, we can open this back up to create our chair. So I'm going to use a marker. You might want to use a pencil first in case you make mistakes. This top square, I'm going to outline with a marker so we can see the square shape. So I'm just going to carefully go around the edge on both sides, go across the top where the crease is, and right in the middle where that crease is, I'm going to do another line right there. That's going to be the top of my chair, the seat of my chair. Then I'm also going to add the back of my chair, so I'm going to create an arch that goes from one side to the other. And inside that arch, I'm going to do a second arch, but this one is going to be smaller and equidistant from the edge, so it should stay about the same thickness all the way around. And then I'm going to add some spokes, so each spoke should take two lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I'll have those 4 spokes going across. You can decide how many you would like. Then we also need the bottom of the chair, so the legs of the chair here. You can see it already kind of looks like a chair. So I'm going to draw a line going down both sides of the square to the floor. The floor is going to be where we see this little crease at the bottom. And I'm just going to turn those two lines into really skinny rectangles. So there's one, here's another, and then I'm just going to connect them with a smaller rectangle in the middle. So when I look at this, now I've got a pretty cool looking three-dimensional chair that sort of pops out of the page. All right, so then to add our table, I'm going to close this again. So now I just have this piece missing here. And I'm going to create a table, which is a little bit taller than my chair. So close to this, I'm going to draw another line that goes straight up but it's going to be taller than my chair. And then I'm going to decide if I want it to be more rectangular. I don't have that much space, so mine's going to be more of a square table. And I'm going to draw another line that goes straight up about the same height. Now I'm going to make this one not the same height on purpose, just so you can see what I can do. So if I were to cut these two lines, which should be the same height, then I'll show you what you should do afterwards. So here's my line, I'm cutting it to the top. Here's my second one. Now, if they're not the same height, kind of like what I did here, then when I go to fold it, this is what happens. And I don't want that because no table is going to be crooked like that because all your food would fall off. So if that happens, that means that the side that's shorter, we need to cut it up a little bit higher. So I cut it up a little bit higher, and now I'm going to make sure that it's an even sort of rectangle or square. So that looks pretty good. Once I have this folded and pressed down, I'm going to close it again. We're going to follow the same steps I did with the chair. I'm going to open it up, stick my finger behind the table, then right here at the fold, I'm going to pull it towards me like this and fold it forward. So now it looks like I have two chunks missing, a small one for the chair and a large one for the table. And then for the table, the steps are very similar to what I did with the chair. First, I'm going to trace around the top here, like this, around the edge. And then for the legs, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the chair here. So I'm going to draw a line. You might hear some sirens in the background there. Across. And then I'm going to do another skinny rectangle right here. And then one last rectangle going across here. So now I've got a table and a chair for my room. And then next week we'll go over how we can add other details to this room also.